Bob Mueller's team erased some records from their official cell phones. For more on this, we're joined by Congressman Brian Babin of the great state of Texas. He sits on the Technology and Transportation Committees. Sir, always great to have you. Let me ask you this first question. How do 12 of the best and brightest lawyers Democrats have to offer manage to erase their phones by entering the wrong passcode 10 times in a row? This seems like yet another so-called irregularity from the sainted Bob Mueller and his team of 13 angry Democrats. Are you, sir, going to be demanding some answers here?
We are. I'll tell you what, I don't buy for a second that this was a coincidence. It just shows to me, and I think to many Americans, that there is still a problem of a deep state at the Department of Justice. And I think that Director Wray of the FBI absolutely has to open up an investigation and find out exactly what in the heck happened, and there should be some accountability. And I'll tell you something else too, Chris. I believe that the Inspector General Horowitz, he found irregularities, he found wrongdoing, but he did not find any bias, he said. I don't buy that for a second either. There was plenty of bias. There was some malice here, some maliciousness, and the people are waiting to find out just exactly who was the one doing these things, and they want to hold these people accountable. And I think the Durham investigation needs to come forth with their report, and I don't care when it happens. I don't care if it's 10 minutes or a day before the election on November the 3rd. They need to release the findings of this investigation. It's outrageous.
Well, amen to that. I'm going to put something up on the screen so the folks at home can see this. This is a political cartoon that was used at Westlake High School in Westchester. It's coming under fire now. After it was a reading assignment, for crying out loud, comparing police officers to the KKK. Now, this same image was used in a middle school in Wiley, Texas. My question to you is, don't parents deserve the power to hold these districts accountable when they do garbage like this? Don't parents deserve school choice?
Absolutely. I served on a school board. That was one of the toughest jobs I ever had, to serve on a school board, Woodville ISD in East Texas, which is in my district now. And I'll tell you what, they absolutely have no excuse for this type of thing to be going on, especially teaching kids to disrespect and to sow the seeds of distrust and hatred for our authorities, our police departments, in the minds of our children. It is absolutely just, it's hard to even describe the anger that I feel for trying to brainwash our children into thinking that the police or KKK, slave owners comparison there. And we're reaping the whirlwind of sowing these types of seeds, sowing the wind, so to speak. And we've seen crime rates soar. We've seen murders. We've seen rapes. We've seen terrible assaults, burning down of small businesses, people's homes. And we've seen what happened in Los Angeles when you have when this type of hatred is spread around by the far left, when you have two police officers sitting in their automobile and have someone stalk them and come up and shoot them both in the head, in the face. And we're still looking for these. And then to have the protesters to come and block the entrance to the emergency room. Folks, it is time to make people pay a price for this type of behavior. And, if the police aren't there, my gosh, this is why we have a Second Amendment, so that we can protect ourselves, our families, and our property. And I, for one, really appreciate the police for what they do. And anyone who stands outside like this and chants they need to die needs to be held accountable in a way that really can be memorable, so that other people can realize that our police need to be respected. We are a country built on law and order, and anarchy is not going to work. It's not going to create anything but mayhem.
Yep, well, one way, back to the government-run schools doing this kind of teaching, if you can call it that, in the schools, the quickest way to take care of that is to give the parents the power to take their money and go someplace else if this is the kind of nonsense the government-run schools are going to do. And speaking of Black Lives Matter, you sit on the Transportation Committee, and I wanted to run this by you. I think our staff made sure that you had a part of revelations that were revealed to this program as breaking news on 9/11 of all times. It seems that the airlines, Delta, Anti-American Airlines, and Frontier Airlines, they have been caught up in this Black Lives Matter culture to the point to where they're targeting passengers, they're targeting their own employees, and they're even roping in air marshals in their anti-cop, pro-BLM culture. Do victims out there have any recourse, or are these just private companies and there's nothing we can do?
Well, you know what? I'm a dentist. I'm not an attorney, but I think that the airlines need to be sued. They need to be responsible for the actions of their employees. And if they can't discipline these employees or fire them or get rid of them, and if they're moving people around from seat to seat, demoting them, making them have later flights, or putting them in less seats that are less comfortable, et cetera, or doxing people who fly that just happen to be pro-Trumpers or Republicans, there is no excuse for this. And quite frankly, this is a time when they need to be held accountable. And corporations, to a large extent, are funding Black Lives Matters. And quite frankly, I think Antifa has already been designated a terrorist group. Black Lives Matter, their founders are self-admitted Marxists that want to overthrow our country. They hate America. They don't believe in a higher power, an absolute right and wrong. Many of them, I've read some of their statements, and they should be designated a terrorist group as well. The only thing that I've seen that is good about Black Lives Matter is that Black lives do matter. All lives matter. But when you have these types of people in there that are creating this type of disorder, of mayhem, of holding people, trying to get into their minds and tell them how they need to think, they preach tolerance until someone doesn't agree with them, and then they go after them. No excuse for this. Lawsuits ought to come.
Congressman Brian Babin, yeah, well, go ahead. Finish your thought there, sir. Go ahead.
I think they ought to be held. These corporations should be held accountable for their employees. They ought to, these people who if they have evidence that their seats have been changed, that they have been mistreated, that their private contacts, that they've been doxxed, they ought to sue the companies that do this, especially these corporations that are funding Black Lives Matters, and they're giving millions and millions of dollars to BLM. And what's really something is Black Lives Matters, like I said, are self-admitted Marxists. Corporations are cutting their own throat by contributing to a group like BLM. Don't they realize what?
I got to tell you, I got to tell you, Congressman, we've actually had one phone call to the Chris Salcedo Show on radio. One guy with American Airlines, for 33 years, he was fired because he said the crime. He said that Black Lives Matter was a hate group, and that's what got him fired. Congressman Babin, sir, we always appreciate the time here on the Chris Salcedo Show. We'll talk.